All right, folks, I'm Tom Downey. Mr. Math over there is Harris Rubenstein. We're joined by Brian Ralph. Follow him on Twitter at BRalph33. Got a couple minutes left here. Brian, let's kind of go through some winners and losers from this trade deadline period. We'll start with your winners. At number one is the Cleveland Cavaliers and their very busy deadline period.
Yeah, they got the best of both worlds. They solved their locker room dysfunction problem by shipping everybody away. They brought back players who will help immediately. They're quality players who will play better together and, we assume, not be so dysfunctional, but you can never really know in that regard with LeBron James. So we think that they'll be better in that regard, but they're also all young players with the exception of George Hill. So if LeBron were to leave this offseason, you have a solid core, keep that Brooklyn pick, you add a talented rookie to that mix next year, and suddenly you have a young team that gives them reason to be excited as opposed to being left with nothing like they were last time LeBron left.
Second on your list here is the New York Knicks. Is this because of the Mudiay trade?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't necessarily have much to work with. They got a player who's a young player who's still developing. He's going to be a quality guy for them. I could see him developing into a quality bench guy. Essentially, I don't count them giving up Doug McDermott as a huge negative for them because he wasn't playing a big role for them. So in my mind, you're trading Doug McDermott and Willie Hernangomez for a couple second-round picks and Emmanuel Mudiay, which comes out to be a very much net positive for them and gives them pieces to work around in their rebuild.
All right, let's get to the Los Angeles Lakers, your third winner here. What goes into the Lakers being a winner for you?
They accomplished their goal. They got cap space to sign 2 players. And really, when it comes to winners and losers, it's not necessarily their. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the trade. Certainly agree with it if they sign those 2 max players either this offseason or next offseason. But for them, they did exactly what they wanted to do, and so they get credit for having a plan and going out and executing that plan, which a lot of other teams didn't do.
And then one more winner on the player side is one Dwayne Wade. He gets to go back to Miami.
He's going to be on a beach, I'm sure, in a couple of days instead of snowy Cleveland. He gets out of all that dysfunction going on up there. Yeah, he doesn't get to play with LeBron James, best friend anymore, but he's back in Miami. He's going to set up his post-playing career with Miami and get to play for a playoff team and have a vital role for a playoff team, which his role was diminished and very limited in Cleveland. He's going to have a much bigger role in Miami. He's going to be beloved. It's just going to be one giant reunion tour for as long as he's there. So for all the good feelings of having an expanded role, he certainly makes the winners list.
All right, then. So, Brian, a reaction poll here coming up, folks. Get those votes flowing in. A hard to think the Cavs are the biggest trade deadline winner. A like for the Knicks. A laughing face for the Lakers. And a wow face for Dwayne Wade. Harris, I'll let you give your thoughts here in a second. But, Brian, pick one of those. Who's your biggest winner?
Cavs. Again, they got rid of dysfunction. Got better now, but more importantly, got better for the future. Both if they keep LeBron James, they added youth and athleticism around him, guys who are under contract. And then again, if LeBron leaves, those same guys are under contract and develop sort of a young core to build around your future with and stay somewhat competitive in the Eastern Conference. You're not going to turn into the Nets or turn into who the Cavs were without LeBron James last time he left.
All right, Harris, who do you think is among your biggest winners or just your outright biggest winner?
I agree that it is the Cavs, and again, I think it comes back to Rodney Hood. I think he's an underappreciated player, and they were able to get him for almost nothing. I think, trading away Jay Crowder is probably probably one of the worst things they had to do today, but at the same time, Jay Crowder has been a replaceable player this year, but at the same time, look, Isaiah Thomas went from being an MVP candidate for the Boston Celtics to being one of the worst players in the NBA this year for the Cavs. And I still think it's an indictment on Tyronn Lue and that coaching staff. Look, you're bringing in George Hill and Rodney Hood, but how much is that actually going to do when you have a coaching staff that wasn't able to turn Isaiah Thomas into anything? I think the biggest winner today is Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade has had an amazing NBA career. He won a ring with Shaq. He won a ring with his best friend. He then got to play in his hometown, play in LeBron's hometown. Now he just gets to go play the rest of his career in Miami. He wins. He won the NBA. Good job, Dwayne Wade.
All right, those were your NBA trade deadline winners. Let's go to the negative side now, and we'll get to the NBA trade deadline losers here, folks. Once again, I'm Tom Downey. Alongside me is Harris Rubenstein. Brian, we'll get to your losers now. Number one, and we've got 3 teams and a player as well. The Oklahoma City Thunder. Is this because of the absence of moves?
Yeah, absolutely. They needed to find a defensive upgrade, preferably one on the wing to replace Andre Roberson. There were a couple players they're interested in, Avery Bradley, Jonathan Simmons, both players on teams that were looking to make trades, and the fact that they weren't able to get a deal done kind of hurts them, I think, in the playoffs as they try and go up against the Warriors and the Rockets.
All right, let's get to your second team here, the Los Angeles Clippers. What do you make of what the Clippers did? Is this because of the Blake Griffin update? Or the Blake Griffin trade, I mean?
Partially. They tried to hit the reset button with the Blake Griffin trade, but didn't set the reset button with anybody else. Avery Bradley, who they got back and could have flipped for anything, and anything they would have got back would have been a bonus because they're not re-signing him this offseason, ended up keeping him and not getting anything back for him. DeAndre Jordan had value, but they weren't able to get anything back for him because I think they asked for a little bit too much. Now, suddenly you're without your best player, your franchise guy, the guy you had said was going to be a Clipper for life and be the face of the franchise. Instead, you traded him away and angered your fan base, and now we're stuck with a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs, and you don't have anything to really show for trading away Blake Griffin.
All right, we'll get to another team here, and then Harris has added one, which we'll let him go on his rant here in just a second. I actually agree with what Harris has put in here. The Milwaukee Bucks are your third loser. What goes into this one?
They had really wanted to make a move to add another key piece. They had gone all in, essentially, on this year, competing with a current roster sooner rather than later in November when they went out and got Eric Bledsoe. And for the past couple months, they've been going after DeAndre Jordan, going after other guys to really strengthen this current roster for a run in the playoffs. And they see a weakness with Cleveland. They think they can compete with Toronto in the playoffs because Toronto hasn't shown yet, as good as they've looked in the regular season, they can translate that over into the postseason. So they thought there was a chance for them to make something of a run with Giannis Antetokounmpo this year and then in future years. And again, like these other teams, struck out and did nothing and are sitting right where they were, which for them is a major loss.
Keep those votes flowing there, folks. Love for the Clippers, like for the Thunder, laughing face to the Bucks, and a wow face for Isaiah Thomas. We'll get back to Isaiah here in a second, Brian. But Harris, you went ahead and added this one, and I actually very much agree with you. The Memphis Grizzlies.
This is one of the most laughable things in the NBA this year. You're the Memphis Grizzlies. You suck. You've been so bad this year. You have Tyreke Evans on your roster averaging 19 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, right? You don't trade him for the Celtics offering you 3 players, a current player and then 2 second-round draft picks, and you say no. You don't trade him for 3 individual players. I don't understand what they're doing. First, they fired Dave Fizdale, one of the best coaches in the NBA. Then they don't trade Marc Gasol, one of the most overpaid players in the NBA that they have to get rid of if they want to rebuild. Then they don't trade the only person left on their roster that has any sort of trade value. But don't worry, they traded James Ennis. They've had a great NBA trade deadline. Memphis needs to get their stuff together. This is ridiculous. Chris Vernon is going to rip them to pieces on his radio show next week. I can't wait. I'm going to live listen to it.
All right, Brian, do you agree with Harris's assessment here of the Memphis Grizzlies?
Yes, I mean they've been an utter disaster. I think since the start of the year, since they decided to fire Fizdale. I didn't put them on the losers list because I think there's a chance with the amount of money that's not around, that's not going to be around this offseason. There's a better chance, and I think a lot of people think of them re-signing Evans, even if it's for $10 million a year. And for a team that hasn't traded Marc Gasol, hasn't traded Mike Conley, they still clearly think they can compete or want to compete for a bottom playoff seed in the West. And Tyreke Evans helps them with that. And if they think they want to bring him back and have cap space to re-sign him and maybe add another player or two this offseason, that's fine with them. The Celtics trade, I think they should have made the trade, but we also don't know what second-round picks are being offered. If they were Celtics second-round picks that are in late 50s and are going to be drafting stash guys you don't see, suddenly maybe that's not such a great deal. But again, not a great trade deadline for them, not a great season for them, but I don't think they were killed by not making a move at the deadline.
And then one more loser here for you, Brian. It's a player. It is Isaiah Thomas. And given the now uncertainty around his future in L.A., I think I tend to agree with this. What do you make of Isaiah Thomas here?
He is now a player without a team because he's on the Lakers technically, but the Lakers want to back up Lonzo Ball. He doesn't want to come off the bench, which is going to lead to the Lakers, according to reports now, Lakers buying him out, in which case he's going to be a free agent, and there's not really going to be a huge market for him, I don't think. And so for him to go from where he was last year, where he's potentially a max contract guy killing it with the Celtics, going to a Cavs team where he created a good portion of that dysfunction and now doesn't have a team, it's been a really fast fall for a guy who was one of the most lovable players in the NBA just last year.
All right, folks, those are your NBA trade deadline losers. Once again, I'm Tom Downey. Alongside me is Harris Rubenstein and Brian Ralph, our NBA insider.